What if I told you that the very thing you believe is protecting you, guiding you, and giving you an identity is actually the source of your deepest suffering? You think your mind is helping you survive, that the voice in your head is your ally. But in reality, that voice is a trap, and it has controlled you since you became aware of yourself. This is the story of the ego, and why it is the greatest obstacle between you and inner peace. The ego is not what you think it is. It is not confidence. It is not a strength. It is not even truly who you are. The ego is a mask, a collection of images, thoughts, and labels that you have built to navigate the world. It tells you, I am this. I am not that. I am better than him. I am worse than her. I deserve this. I fear that. And in that endless cycle of comparisons, judgments, and identities, you lose sight of your essence. You lose sight of the part of you that is silent, timeless, and free. The ego thrives on separation. It convinces you that you are cut off from others, that you are a single unit fighting for survival in a hostile world. And because of this belief, you feel loneliness, competition, and insecurity. Think about how often you compare yourself with others, how often you measure your worth against what you see on social media, or how frequently you feel the sting of envy. That is not your true self speaking. That is the ego whispering in your ear, reminding you of your supposed inadequacy. It is the voice that tells you peace will come only when you achieve more, own more, or become more. But peace never arrives that way, because the ego does not want peace. It wants drama. It feeds on conflict. It craves attention, praise, and validation. And when it doesn't receive those things, it creates pain, because even suffering is better for the ego than silence. When you are restless, anxious, or angry, the ego feels alive. The ego is a parasite that survives only when you mistake it for yourself. Why can't you find peace? Because peace cannot be found in the ego's world. The ego is like a prison guard who promises you freedom if you obey, but every time you follow its orders, it locks you deeper inside. It tells you, once you have this relationship, then you will be happy. Once you earn that amount of money, then you will finally rest. Once people recognize you, then you will be complete. But the moment you achieve those things, the bar moves. The voice changes the rules. It invents new conditions. And so you keep chasing a horizon that always escapes you. You can't find peace because you are searching for it in the very place that hides it. Let's dig deeper. The ego is not just personal, it is collective. Entire societies are built on ego. Nations compete, corporations fight, ideologies clash, all because of this same illusion. We are right, they are wrong. We are strong, they are weak. We must win, they must lose. Humanity's wars are nothing more than egos colliding on a larger stage. And if the ego can convince billions of people to destroy each other for power and pride, imagine what it can do inside your mind daily. But here's the paradox. The ego is not evil. It is not some demon that you must slay. It is simply an illusion that has been mistaken for truth. It is a tool that went too far, a servant that rebelled against its master. The ego evolved to help you survive, to give you a sense of individuality in a vast and overwhelming world. Without it, you would not be able to function in society. You would not be able to say, I am me. But when you identify too strongly with it, when you forget that it is only a tool, the ego takes control. The servant becomes the tyrant, and under its rule, peace becomes impossible. The trap is subtle. The ego disguises itself as you. When you feel angry, You believe that anger is your identity. When you feel ashamed, you think you are shame itself. When you feel proud, you cling to that pride as if it proves your worth. But none of these states is who you are. They are passing clouds. They are temporary ripples on the surface of your awareness. Yet the ego insists, this is you, this is permanent, this is the truth. And because you believe it, you suffer. Consider how much of your life is spent defending an image. You dress a certain way, speak a certain way, and act certain ways, all to maintain an identity in the eyes of others. And when that image is threatened, you feel pain. If someone criticizes you, you feel attacked. But what is being attacked? Your essence? No, only the mask. And yet you protect the mask as if it were your life itself. That is the power of the ego. It convinces you to protect a lie. So what is the way out? The first step is awareness. Simply noticing that the ego exists loosens its grip. The moment you recognize, that is my ego speaking, you are no longer fully trapped. Awareness is like a light shining into a dark room. The shadows lose their power. When you observe your own thoughts, your anger, your jealousy, your pride, and you say, that is the ego, you create space. In that space lies freedom. In that space lies the possibility of peace. But here is the challenge. The ego does not like to be observed. The moment you try to watch it, it slips into another disguise. It might even turn your spirituality into an identity. Look how aware I am. Look how enlightened I am compared to others. And just like that, the ego steals your progress and transforms it into fuel for itself. That is why so many seekers end up more trapped than they were before. They have simply traded one mask for another. You may wonder why the ego fights so hard to maintain its grip. The truth is simple yet unsettling. The ego survives only through resistance. It needs conflict, comparison, and the endless chase for validation. Without these, it begins to dissolve, and the mind, terrified of emptiness, clings to whatever story it can invent. This is why even in moments of joy, the ego whispers, "Don't lose this." It turns bliss into fear. It transforms love into possession. It corrupts peace into anxiety about peace disappearing. Think about it. Have you ever noticed how quickly a beautiful moment gets ruined by your own thoughts? You're watching a sunset, and suddenly, the mind intrudes. I should take a picture. I should share this. I wish I could always feel like this. In that very instant, peace is broken. The ego has crept back in, turning a pure experience into something transactional. It doesn't allow you to simply be, it needs to own, record, compare, and control. This is the trap. And unless you see it, you will remain enslaved by it. Many people spend their whole lives seeking peace without realizing they're looking through the lens of the ego itself. It's like asking the prison guard for the key. The guard doesn't want you free. The ego doesn't want peace. It wants drama. It wants to feel special, even if that means feeling especially miserable. So what's the way out? The first step is radical awareness. You must begin to observe the ego in action without judgment. When you notice yourself craving recognition, pause. When you feel the urge to argue just to be right, step back. When fear of losing control tightens its grip, breathe. In those small pauses, you weaken the ego's power. You shine a light on its games, and light is something the ego cannot survive. But here's a paradox. If you turn this into another mission, another achievement, the ego will hijack it. It will say, look how spiritual I'm becoming. Look how enlightened I am compared to others. That's the ego again, dressed in new clothes. True peace isn't a trophy you display. It's a quiet presence you embody. You can't brag about it, you can only live it. Philosophers and mystics have warned us for centuries about this trap. The Stoics spoke of detachment, not as indifference, but as freedom from the ego's chains. Eastern wisdom teaches that clinging creates suffering, while letting go brings liberation. Even modern psychology points to the same truth. Identity built on external validation is fragile. The ego is like glass. It may shine, but it cracks at the slightest pressure. Real peace begins when you stop negotiating with the ego, when you no longer ask, "How do I look? How do I compare? What do they think of me?" And instead return to the simplicity of being. You realize peace was never missing. It was only buried under the noise of thought. Imagine waking up tomorrow and not needing to prove anything, not needing to win arguments, not needing to chase admiration, not needing to fear rejection. How light would you feel? That's not a fantasy. That's your natural state, once the ego's grip weakens. Of course, this doesn't mean erasing the ego. That, too, is another egoic fantasy, the idea of becoming perfectly egoless. The truth is, the ego is part of being human. It helps us navigate the world, build relationships, and set goals. The real problem is not the ego itself, but our unconscious identification with it. We forget it's only a tool, not the master. The mind was meant to serve you, not enslave you. So, the work is not to kill the ego, but to see it clearly, to step outside of its endless demands and recognize the spacious awareness beneath it all. In that awareness, peace arises naturally. You don't have to create it. You simply stop covering it up, and this awareness isn't something far away. It's available right here in this very moment as you listen. The part of you that's hearing these words without needing to grasp or judge, that's the space beyond ego. The more you rest there, the freer you become. Now ask yourself honestly, how much of your suffering has been created by the stories your ego tells? How many sleepless nights, how many pointless arguments, how many moments of joy stolen by fear? The truth is brutal, but it's also liberating. Almost all of it comes from identification with the ego. And if the problem is created by thought, then freedom lies in stepping beyond thought. Peace isn't something you'll find tomorrow after you've achieved enough or become enough. Peace is what remains when you stop running. And the ego hates that. Because the moment you stop running, you see it for what it is, an illusion. A phantom built from memory and fear. It has no substance once you shine awareness on it, so the real question is, are you ready to step out of the ego trap? Are you willing to stop chasing the illusion of peace and start living in the reality of it? Drop a comment below and share your experience. Have you caught your ego stealing your peace? What happened? And how did you notice it? Remember this. Peace isn't something you achieve. It's something you uncover. It was always there, waiting beneath the noise. Don't let the ego convince you otherwise. Choose awareness. Choose stillness. And as you do, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more explorations into the mind, the self, and the path to inner freedom.